And we perfect. And we are live. And so we will give people a few moments to come in and attend. I will say that I have been getting a lot of out of office on vacation email notifications from people in Europe this week, starting yesterday. So I think there will be many people perhaps who are on holiday already, but we do have some folks coming in. Welcome, those of you who are joining the Oro Tech Talk number 12. We're going to give a few minutes for all attendees to come in. I know that people are dialing in on their vacations because they're on their holidays because they are so excited about the material. They cannot wait. We'll give this a few minutes. For those who are new to Zoom, there are controls at the bottom of your window for Q&A and for chat. If you have questions for the presenters, you can put them in the questions and answer box, and they will be there. We will answer all questions that come in at the end of the presentation. But please put them in. We will answer them either digitally or live on screen. If you have a message for someone or you need to get our attention because something's wrong, you can use the chat feature and just chat, and we will see it immediately. Of course, this presentation is recorded, and we will be posting it on YouTube as we do all of our Tech Talks. And so if you ever want to see past Tech Talks about another topic, you can go to the OroCommerce YouTube channel and find them all in a playlist going back, I think, about 2 years. So we'll give everybody one more minute, and then we will get started. And now it is just the awkward silence. We need music, maybe? Do either of you have, Anton, Chemek, do you guys have like a keyboard or something you can play a song?
I should somewhere here, so.
Okay. Okay, it is 3 minutes after the hour. We will go ahead and get started. So I'd like to welcome everybody to Oro Tech Talk number 12. This is a long title. This is Data Integration Strategies for Large-Scale Multi-Site Oro Projects. So for today's agenda, we are joined by Chemek from OroCommerce and Anton from Smile. And we'll start by, Chemek is going to go over sort of the foundations of Oro, how Oro is designed for multi-website, multi-region projects and builds, and go through some of the core engineering and architecture behind Oro and talk about sort of what the out-of-the-box experience is like with OroCommerce. And then Anton is going to present details from a project with one of his clients where they took OroCommerce's native multi-site scalable architecture and turned it up to 11 for a very large customer who had a lot of complex needs, specifically around data and integration. And then there will be questions at the end. So feel free, if you're just joining, there's a Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom window. Please put all of your questions in there for the presenters. And at the end, when we are done presenting, we will address any questions that come in. As I said, this is recorded. And so we will send out the recording. Will be out on YouTube at the end. So with all of that, I will let the speakers introduce themselves. We'll start with Anton.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm working at Smile for enough long time and working with OroCommerce more than 4 years. I'm technical technical expert at Smile and also team lead for one of the biggest project in Smile. And today I will share our case studies and how we built it and some interesting solution related to data flow and Oro. Thank you.
All right, Chemek.
Hi, everyone. I'm Przemek Dogaj, and I'm in Oro for almost 8 years. I am work mostly as a senior software engineer and tech lead of projects of different scale. Because the topic that we will discuss today is extensive, I will try to only provide some backgrounds for Anton's story. Thank you.
All right. So the first section, Przemek, you will talk about the foundations of Oro for this topic.
Yeah, sure, of course. So we are talking about large-scale multi-site projects. So it will be not a surprise that OroCommerce Enterprise has powerful capabilities that helps to reflect the organizational structure of that type of business. From the functional point of view, we can split that into two main functionalities. Using OroCommerce Enterprise, you can create multiple websites dedicated to specific audience or even to a specific group of products. Of course, you can customize its look and feel, starting from theme or visual aspects like, for instance, menus, content pages, or content blocks. You can also decide on the scope of visible data, for instance, web catalogs, product visibility, inventory levels. And finally, you can disable or enable functionalities like promotions, shipping methods, payment methods for particular websites. So it's easy to build applications starting from simple brand shops through fully functional B2B shops and ending at a complex composition of differently behaved front applications. Behind the scene, using the multi-organization feature, you can build complex concept of data access. By default, OroCommerce is installed with one main organization. However, you can create additional organizations and business units that will help you to manage the data access and permissions aspects. The multi-organization feature complements perfectly well the multi-website feature, and it's ready for really complex projects. Next slide, please. By default, OroCommerce is a B2B application. Of course, if necessary, it's also worth create as a B2C shop. You can use all the fantastic out-of-the-box features like CRM, flexible product catalogs, promotions, multi-shopping lists, or workflow-driven checkouts, and so on. Out of the box, you can also use built-in integrations with PMI system, warehouses, ERP systems, payment or shipping method operators. Next slide, please. But at the same time, an interesting application of OroCommerce is to use it as a central node in a multi-system ecosystem. The major stable Oro architecture that offers integration framework and API will work perfectly in this role. Next slide, please. As I mentioned before, OroCommerce offers several tools to support data integration. For typical applications, you can use import-export API or API. The simplest solution is to use built-in import-export functionality. It has low-level entry threshold and works with CSV data format, which is widely adopted by businesses and used by many tools. For more requiring solutions, you can use easily extendable API that offers higher flexibility and more permission control possibilities. REST API is also, as you know, standard for system integration, which helps to cooperate with different systems. Next slide, please. When the out-of-box functionalities will be not enough, you can customize existing tools or add features that you need. You can add your own API endpoints to handle more complex operations, not only based on built-in entity-based API. You can use Oro integrations bundle that is a skeleton for building integration with other systems and offers support for things like configuration and basic data transmission data. Finally, if you need more power, you can go a bit beyond standards and flexible solutions and get rid of the performance overhead by implementing low-level solutions. Next slide, please. The data integration process is also data manipulation process. Out of the box, you can use plenty of techniques that support this task. For instance, during import, you have things like normalizers, the normalizers that help to convert the data, format conversions, postponing records when you work with data sets when particular records depends on another imported before or after the particular record. You can also customize the batch processing to build more complex tasks. When you're working with API, you have tools like processors and preprocessors. At every step, you can use flexible event system and plug in your own listeners to modify data. But if you have really large scale of data, or you can process data after importing, you can design a data processing tool that will run periodically or in response to some event from an external system. You can even connect that with power of external tools, for instance, one based on LLM models. That is the hype right now. Next slide, please. When you're working on large-scale applications, you have to be aware of performance challenges. You should know the best practice to tune up your code. It can be as easy as disabling some optional listeners during the import, or adding load balancing in the face of millions of API requests, or splitting messages in your message queue into several queues and dedicated to particular task that they are doing, and if needed, adding additional message consumers. Sometimes you will have to give up using flexible default import classes that handle all typical cases and write your own ones, strictly dedicated to your case. Or in the worst scenario, maybe it will be even needed to stop using ORM when data hydration, for instance, will become a performance bottleneck. Fortunately, there are dozens of helpful tools like performance tests and profiling tools that can you use to determine where is your bottleneck. But sometimes there will be no other solution that add more instances, what in case of large-scale projects happens. Thank you.
All right, Anton, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. I will start with a small presentation about our case, about our client. Our client is a global chemical distribution, and it has so many countries and a lot of customers and principal suppliers. Next slide, please. And we built a solution for it. The idea was to build a portal with many websites, with many languages. So we have more than 100,000 of configurable products, more than 70 websites, and a lot of other interesting stuff that we need to scale and somehow import and display. Next slide, please. So we have more than 70 websites, but it doesn't sound something large or complex. But we deal with interesting case. We have more than 70 websites, we have more than 20 segments, and we have stores. Each store is combination of website and segment. And as a result, we now have more than 1,000 of stores. Each store has unique URL, unique homepage, unique content types for this store. For example, we can enable news, or we can enable recipes. We have configuration. Of course, we manage product visibility for each store, and probably we can customize every everything for each store. And we have levels of configuration, something we can configure only on website level, something on segment level, and something on store level. For example, for website, we configure languages, we configure ERP that we are using, we configure payments, currency, and other stuff. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have independent store, and we have a lot of them. And with this, we have some benefits and some difficulties. And in the same times, benefit is some difficult or new challenge for us. For example, customization. We can customize everything. Everyone is happy. We have different stores. We can manage what we display, how we display products, information about products, some attributes, other stuff, some currencies, languages. And on another hand, we have too many configurations. We need to support it, we need to maintain, and sometimes it's a bit hard to find the root cause of some bugs. Also, we have visibility for each entity, for each store. And from the beginning, we missed that we can use organization of Oro. We don't use it, and as a result, we have difficulties with back office permission, because we need to be sure that each manager can contribute only for some stores. We customized our routing system because each store need to have unique URL, and as a result, we had a lot of work related to sitemap, to SEO, to access to content. And we have so many websites, we have so many products, we have a lot of other entities, and performance and the indexing is always a challenge for us. It works fast, but sometimes it takes some time to reindex some data or just to find missing data. Next slide, please. We have a lot of data, and we use three main flows to import or export some data from our portal and our stores. You already hear about default ways. We use almost all of them, and here is the three main ways that we are using. The first one is from data lake to Oro. Data lake is like just a name of some ERP, because we have different ERPs, we have different API providers, and during this Tech Talk, I will call all of them as data lake. So we have a case when some data lakes and the data to Oro, and with this we defined that other ERPs can create, update, or remove some entities via API, or inform us about some changes that we need to update something or do some other actions. Also, we have a way when we inform some other system about the changes on our end. And we have default features from Oro for import and export. They are easy to use, and we are using them for manual actions when you need to import some content just for one store. Let's go to the next slide, please. Here is a simple example how easy you can customize your API, because for sure you will need to have it. For example, other ERP system will not store your IDs that use it inside the OroCommerce, but they will have some unique identifiers on their side. And in current example, it's just few rows in YAML configuration for API, and the API in example for patch will work for totally another field as ID. Also in example, you can see object with stores, and you can easily create API processor and convert data as you need. In this example, after result of patching of new customer, some stores will be added for this customer. Next slide, please. For events, it's a way when we are sending events from Oro to some other ERP inform about some actions. For example, some products were added to shopping list, to your cart, or someone logging on some store, or something viewed the page, filtered, used for search, and a lot of other useful analytic. We have a lot of events, and of course we have a lot of count of events each hour, each minute. And it's not a problem if you will be ready to scale. We created a separate message queue, separate job. So just on background, we are sending events without any effects on storefronts. Next slide, please. It was almost default from the box features in Oro with more customization, but it's not so simple when you are going to import some content to Oro. And we use it two main ways. The first one, it's importing from CSV file. It is default native import by Oro. You can easily customize it and you can easily add new fields. It's easy to implement, a bit more complex to extend and support because you need to remember about documentation, you need to remember about import files, and sometimes it can be an issue when you are importing for a lot of websites. So we are using default import just for simple content like sites, news, or some other types of content, and we allow only manual inputs from back office and only for one store or one website. In this case, we have more visibility on data that we have. On another hand, we need to import a lot of data from APIs that change a lot, and we implemented import process with generating big import file, and after it sent to native processes of Oro. It was complex to implement. We spent enough time, but for now we can easily add new fields and we can easily extend it for new entity, for few new entities, or it doesn't matter. Next slide, please. So how we started? It was 4 years ago, and the goal for MVP was to build a small portal with few websites and with 10 stores. We already had enough criteria to do. We needed to make custom roads for storefronts. We need to support multi-languages, and we need to import product and prices. And products always related to some stores, so we need to manage it. We had an API, and we did very simple way because of short time frame and because of deadlines. We did it in simple. We had a cron. Cron creates new job. This new job started to ask external ERP, our data lake, to get data, get all data, generate big JSON file, and after it we convert JSON file and convert JSON file to CSV and use native import by Oro. With these benefits, we did it fast, and we didn't worry a lot about all Oro's magic because we generated needed structure and it works. Next slide, please. And we did it and started to ask a question for ourselves. Did everything went well, or do we need to change something? As a result, we found that imports only by shadow because we have a cron, and the product so were updated only each 3 hours. Also, if we had a lot of products, for example, in the beginning we had more than three more than 30,000 of products, it can take more than 3 hours. And it's not okay because we have one import, after it we have one more, and it stacks, we have some data overlaps. Also, each time we imported all data, and we started to think what we can improve. And after it, we found a way for small but very important change for us. Next slide, please. We started to communicate with our API provider, and we understand that we can import only changes the entities. We do not need to import all entities each time. API provider adapted their API, and they added new field and new filter for products and for prices as last modified by. And as a result, we can import only updated entities by data from previous cron. And this was a small change, but it was very important for us because with this change, it added a lot of impact for our stores. It was less time for index, it was less time to import new products, and it was less time between changes in ERP and on our stores. Next slide, please. After these small changes, we had big growth. We had approximately 10 new entities. We have more localizations, and we had more attributes per store. And it case times in many times data that we need to import and we need to manage. So we started to think what we can do, and we cut it import on two parts: simple entities and complex entities like products with relationship. Next slide, please. So for simple entities, it was like just taxonomies or some attributes or some really flat data with 5, 6 fields and with some external ID, with some unique codes per store. And we did in the same approach. So we started to generate big JSON file. After it, we converted one big JSON file to few CSV files and used native import. Benefits for it, it was very fast to build, and it's very easy to extend. So if in future we will have more and more entities, we can just copy some configuration and it will work for other entities. But we had grow related not only for simple entities, also for more complex entities, like product, prices, orders. And next slide, please. So in this phase, we built our import system. With our import system, we had more actual data, we avoided overlaps, we added more logs, we added more statistics, and we added more visibility for managers because everyone will have possibility to see full logs of import. Next slide, please. With new import system, we had a few entities related to import, and we updated our import process. Now we have a cron checks. Do we need to start import or import is already running? On this step, we avoided data overlap when few products can be in the same import 2 times with different data. After cron, we are creating import entities, and this import entity, import result, store all information about import, when it was started, why it was started, and which data we need to import, some filters, criteria, and other stuff. After it, we are starting to create file based on entity type, is it product price or something else. We are starting to request API. We saved one JSON file. Say this save this file to logs to have possibility to check it in future if needed. We convert this big JSON file to CSV files, and as previously use CSV files in future import. But here we added one more important step. It's our custom validation, and we validate file before imports. It's like we validate file globally, not just for some products on some prices, that we do not hide a lot of products, or we will remove all products by some mistakes. After validation is done, we can import these native import files with import native process. Next slide, please. And with this import process, from benefits, we had two ways to start import. Our external system can send a request to us, and we will know that some data was updated, and we need to get this data from external resource and import. In the same time, we have possibility to make a manual request from back office to import some data for some products. We did some restrictions, so only for one store or only for some IDs, but still. And as a result, after these changes, we don't use cron because external systems inform us when data was updated, and we immediately starting to import data. And as a result, we reduce time between changes product in some other ERP and on stores, and we don't have overlaps in data. Next slide, please. After changes, we were happy, but another big grow was waiting for us, and with new grow, we had more and more entities to import. We have few new entities with few millions of entities that we need to maintain, import, update, sometimes remove. We increased the count of stores probably in like 5 times, and as a result, we have more and more data to reindex, and more and more events to send, and more data to import. And we increased count of attributes per store, and it's important metrics for us because with each new attribute we have more and more data that we need to import. You will see it a bit later how it affects us. Next slide, please. So with new big grow, we started to investigate and how we can be ready for more and more data, what we can do in future, and how to be ready for everything. And we understand that we don't need to build something complex. We can keep it simple and just be ready to scale. So we found few points that we need to use. That we need to do. It's optimize our indexes. Be ready that we will have more and more data each time. We need to have more logs, because when you have visibility on what is going and why something was imported or wasn't imported, it's very important. And we started to implement this step by step. The first one was related to index optimization. And next slide, please. For index optimization, we started to go deep in details and investigate what exactly do we need. We understand that we can use indexes not only for websites, but for some entities we can avoid cloning data in many different websites, and we can just create one big index and store everything related to it. So we created backend index instead of using front-end indexes. And as a result, we have less size of indexes. We do not reindex useless items, and as a result, more fresh data on stores. In the same index optimization phase, we understand that for some entities, we don't need to use index because it's good when you search for some words, but if you use indexes just with pre-selected filters or just by some select list, it's perfectly works with your database, with Postgres or with some other, and you don't need to spend time on actualized data in index. You don't need to reindex, and we understand that for some entities we also can do it. And one more important change that was related to index optimization, it's related items. We analyzed how we use products and some other entities, and we understand that sometimes we don't need to reindex configurable product or when simple products were changed. And as a result, we don't have a useless index item, and indexation go fast in a few times. And these three changes saved a lot of time for us and also increased performance a bit. Next slide, please. Another point that we started to investigate how we can make more scalable solution. And in our example, we have a lot of data with each new store. For example, for one product, for one store, we have 2 entities to import. But if we have 100,000 of products, for example, for 300 stores, we have 3 million of items for import. But now we have more than 1,000 of stores, so we have a lot of data we have a lot of data. And as a result, we have found a way that we can do the same as do Oro with native import. So before we create a big JSON file, we already cut our big JSON file to some small files and use batches to import as native. As a result, we have a batches 2 times with our JSON import and with native import of Oro because it also uses the same approach because we use it the same approach. And as a result, for now, we are ready for any count of products, any count of prices, or some other entities that we are using, and we do not worry how many data we need to import. Everything works on background, and because of logs and validation, we can see status of it, how it's going, how percentage of completeness and other stuff. Also, with the last big grow, we had new and more new sources for import, and because of the same interface that we are building for different entity and for different sources, it's very easy to import from different sources. You can just generate JSON file in correct structure and after it or JSON or generate CSV file in different ways, but with the same structure, and use native import, and you will be probably happy. Next slide, please. It is my last slide, and I want to share 3 takeaways that we get and that I will recommend to you, it's to be ready for scale, because in any case, your project and your count of data will scale. If you don't use a lot of ERPs, a lot of other systems, in any case, you will have more and more data, and be ready for it. So if you have possibility to test import with more data, try it, and it will save a lot of time in future. The second one is logs and validation. It saves a lot of time for us to investigate some data issues, some data overlap, or some other issues. If we have logs, if we have validations, if we have source files that were imported, because sometimes you can have strange data from other systems and, for example, hide all products on all stores, and only one stores will have products. And the last one, but probably the most important, trying to investigate what you're doing and why you need this. Because sometimes you can communicate with other team, with with API provider, with ERP team, and very small changes can add a lot of impact for you, and will save a lot of time and as a result money for you. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anton and Chemik. That was very good. Mirrors some of my experiences doing large ERP integrations. We'll see if anybody has any questions. If you've got one, if you've been holding on to it, go ahead and pop it in the question box now, pop it in the chat box. We can see both. We'll let everybody stick around for a few minutes to field any questions that come through. Haven't seen any yet. But I will say that 4 years is a long time, Anton. So you've been working on this same project for 4 years?
Yeah, from the beginning, we started with a workshop to understand what we need. We started to build MVP, and now we are still doing it. So we migrated from OroCommerce 4.1 to version 5, and soon we will start upgrade from version 5 to version 6, because it was released.
That is excellent. I will say, for those of you who are attending this call who are OroCommerce partners, you should have gotten an email this morning from me. I don't know that I wrote all of that email, but it's from me about an upgrade toolkit that we have just released to save time on your upgrades. It was written specifically for upgrading to version 6, although a lot of the scripting and best practices in the documentation, I think, would apply to other upgrades as well. So please, if you did not get that, you're an Oro partner, reach out to me after this, and I will be sure that you get access to all of that. There will be another such talk like this probably later this month or in early August. It will depend on probably vacation times for people, going into this upgrade process and this upgrade toolkit in more depth. I have not seen any questions come through. Oh, one just did. Will you guys publish this video on YouTube? Yes, we will. There is a playlist on our corporate YouTube for Tech Talks, and this will go right into that playlist. So I would expect that to happen next week. Here in the US, it will be holiday the last 2 days of this week. So probably early next week would be my guess for that. See if anyone else has any more questions. I'll give everybody 1 more minute to get them in, and then if something comes to you after we've already closed the recording, then you can simply email us and we will route the question to either Anton or Chemik. I can't imagine you would have a question for me. Okay, I think we're done. I think, guys, that was so thorough that no one can come up with a question to ask. So thank you both for your time and for the presentation. Audience, thank you for attending. Watch YouTube for this and check your inbox for the upgrade toolkit. And we will see you next time we do this. Thank you and have a good rest of your day.